Hear our prayers. Amen. Everyone, again, welcome. My name is Lance. This is The Gathering. There's plenty of seats. I say that. There's not really plenty of seats, but we can definitely find you a seat. I'm so glad that you're here today. This is The Gathering, and I was gone for a lot of this week. Normally, I'm here at the church. We work on more than just Sundays, by the way. Didn't know that until I got into this gig. Was very disappointed. And I was at a conference. There's the largest United Methodist church in the United States. It's something called the Church of the Resurrection. They host a leadership conference every year. I went to it for the first time ever. It was great. It's this big Six Flags Over Jesus church up there, and they have great leaders and great speakers, and a lot of my friends were there, and I really enjoyed it. And we talked a lot about the hows of ministry, all the different stuff we're doing, and the whats, what all these different programs, all these different things. And I got to tell you, what it made me think about, though, more than anything, was the why. What I spent the entire week thinking about was the why of ministry, was the why of the church, was the why of faith, was the why that I get up every single morning and do what I try to do. And I don't know if I've said this to you recently enough, but allow me to say it right now. Do you know what I hope for you? Do you know what I wish for each and every one of you in the chairs today? Do you know what I wish for all of you that are watching online? Do you know what I wish for each and every one of you? What I wish for you is joy. Right? I wish for you to have a life filled with joy. And I mean the kind of joy that is much deeper and much richer and much more resilient than just the kind of joy that comes from vacations or experiences or a well-mowed lawn or an excellent dinner party or a good job moment or a good relationship moment, right? I have a wish for you to have the kind of joy that is richer and much more resilient than any other kind of joy that is possible. And I wish for you to have purpose. I wish for you to have purpose. I wish for you to have a reason to get up from bed every single morning and know that your life is well spent and used for good purposes, and that you are doing everything that you can with these very precious breaths that you live with, that you have within you. I wish for you to have joy. I wish for you to have purpose. I wish for you to have freedom. Right? I wish for you to have freedom from doubt. I wish for you to have freedom from despair. I wish for you to have freedom from sexism or racism or materialism or all the other things that pull away on your soul. I wish for you to have joy. I wish for you to have purpose. I wish for you to have freedom. And I wish for you to have assurance. I wish for you to have assurance, to know that you are on the right path. And in the midst of all the different things that are in front of you and all the different choices you have to make and all the different left turns and all the different right turns and all the different difficulties professionally and all the different difficulties relationally and all the different difficulties with children or the absence of children or whatever it is that is worrying you at that moment, I wish for you to have true and good assurance in your life. I wish for you to have joy and purpose and freedom and assurance, because it is possible. It is possible. That is possible for you to have, no matter what life is handing you, no matter what kind of difficulties you're having with kids, no matter what kind of difficulties you're having in your community, no matter what is challenging you or threatening you or making you wonder or hurt. It is possible, even in the face of those things, for you to have that every single day of your life. And that is the why. That is the why I am here. That is the why the church is here. That is the why we are here in worship. That is possible for you. If you live with Jesus Christ at the center of your life. If you live believing that you are who he says you are, and that this world is about what he says it's about, and that God is who he says he is, right? It is possible for you if you live with that at the center of your life. And not everybody does. Right? That's what this entire concept of worship is about. That's what we've been talking about for the last 3 weeks, and that's what we're going to conclude with today. This concept of worship, the concept of saying, this is the center of my life. This is the rock that I'm building my house on. This is what I cling to in the midst of the storms that we all know that we are going to face. If you live with Jesus at the center, you can and you will have all of those things. Right? If you live your life with that as the center, if worship of God made known to us in Jesus is at the center, you will have all those things. And if you do not, If you live with something else, something unworthy, an idol at the very center of your life, you never will. Over and over again, the Bible points us back to the worship of God. God's pulling us away from the worship of idols, and it is extremely unlikely. It is extremely unlikely that you are going to go leave this place and intentionally worship another God that was found in the ancient Near Eastern communities like the people of the Old Testament did. Right? It's very unlikely that you're going to leave this place, reject the gospel, and fall instead into the worship of Baal or Asherah, or you're going to just try to fit Jesus Christ into the panoply of pagan communities of gods that was so common in the communities in which Jesus walked and talked and taught. Right? That is extremely unlikely, but what is much more threatening to each and every person in this room is that you will leave this place and unintentionally settle for and center your life around something else, right? Some false God that is so commonly worshiped in the communities that surround us, right? There's a really good chance that unintentionally you'll walk away from this place and you'll find yourself worshiping fame, not on purpose, but on accident. You'll find yourself believing that I will mean more and I will matter and I will finally be seen if at some point I spread my brand, right? Or if at some point I raise awareness for myself in my professional community, right? Or on social media, et cetera, right? Some of us will unintentionally walk away from this place believing that that would make our lives worthwhile or worth living, right? Many more of us will walk away unintentionally believing that our wealth is the very center of who we are, that is the thing that we can count on. Yes, the marriage may fail. Yes, the business may fail. Yes, the community may fall apart. Yes, the kids may not turn out the way that we want them to, but at the end of the day, I'll still have that, right? There's so many of us who unintentionally proclaim that to be the foundation of our lives, the thing that we can always trust in, and it is just not true. Some of us will walk away from this place unintentionally yearning to know, yearning to believe that we are worthy and good because of the authority that we wield over other people, right? The ability to make them do what we require will make us finally feel like we belong in the skin that we're living in, right? Some of us will unintentionally worship the false god of power, right? The ability to have control, to build ourselves up, right? Professionally or in our own relationships or in our own community, right? The threat behind each and every one of these false gods is that they can never result in you having the kind of life that I wish for you, right? The kind of life that Christ works for in you, the kind of life that you were made for, that life of joy and that life of purpose and that life of freedom and that life of assurance. It comes only in a life lived with Christ at the center. That is the why. So I want to conclude with a final false god, right? A final false god that threatens us, a final false god that tells lies to us, a final false god that makes false promises to us. I want to talk about a false god that is incredibly powerful and popular in our community, and that is the false god of sex appeal. The false god of sex appeal, right? So like I mentioned before, in all these other false gods, each and every false god gets all of its strength from two things, right? All of its strength from a lie and all of its strength from a false promise. So just like fame told you the lie that you're invisible, right? Just like fame told you the lie that you're invisible, just like wealth told you the lie that you will have a better life if, you just had more money. Sex appeal tells us a lie too, right? The false god of sex appeal tells us a lie. And the lie is that your worthiness for love, attention, or affection is tied to how you look. Your worthiness for your love, your worthiness for attention, your worthiness for affection, your worthiness to intimacy, all of that is tied to how you look, right? That is the core lie of the false god of sex appeal. But here's the thing, though. We do a lot of ministry with single people, right? We do a lot of ministry with young adults in this place, a lot of ministry with teenagers. And look, y'all are out there on the front lines doing life in the Tinder era. So I am not going to pretend for 1 second like all those things aren't real aspects of our life, right? I mean, I remember my illustrious and wonderful dating career, right? You're just throwing everything you got out there, right? Whatever you want. Like, what do you want? I'm just trying, right? I'm just trying to get attention. And there's an important thing you need to realize. That's hardwired into all of us, right? That's hardwired into our biology. That's hardwired into what it is to be a person on this planet. Do any of y'all ever watch Planet Earth? The Netflix documentaries? Y'all, if you haven't ever watched it before, welcome to the next 20 hours of your life, right? It's like my happy place. The Planet Earth documentaries on Netflix are so incredible. And there's this one portion I remembered immediately. One of the things that my wife will point out, if she can tell when I'm trying to get some attention, and she'll say I'm dancing like a bird of paradise. And if y'all haven't seen it, I want to show you a clip from the documentary. This is, I'm going to be talking over it a little bit. If y'all are familiar with these birds, they're in the jungles of New Zealand. This is my guy.
In the great island of New Guinea, there are 42 different species of birds of paradise.
This is me trying to show my wife how much I clean the house.
All is ready.
It gets better.
Very impressive, but no one is watching.
Very impressive, but no one is watching is my dating memoir. And finally a female shows up. All of us have seen this happen on a dance floor somewhere. This is the equivalent of a guy who just got a Porsche and insists on parking in the front
She
of every
retires
restaurant.
to consider her verdict. It's hard not to feel deflated when even your best isn't good enough.
That's hardwired in all of us, right? That is some part of us finding each other, right? It's true, right? The lie, right? The lie is that your worthiness for love and attention and affection is tied to how you look, right? It's true, right? If any of you are experiencing singleness right now, like you just know that all that kind of stuff is hardwired into, we don't do exactly that same thing, but we do pretty much that same thing, right? The problem is when you believe that lie that for the rest of your life, your worthiness of love or of affection or of attention or of intimacy is tied to the way that you look, right? It's tied to your sex appeal. That is the lie that the false god of sex appeal tells you over and over and over again. And the false promise is that if you achieve it, if you worship the false god of sex appeal enough, that it will last forever. Now here, I want to have an honest talk. A talk that's geared toward this community and its particular needs, right? Attraction, right, is something that is kind of culturally conditioned. We kind of are geared toward, as you know, North Americans living in the United States at this time and place, to have certain things that we respond to, right? And what's amazing is we can all just kind of recognize it when it happens. Have you all ever heard? I'm on the internet a lot. Don't want to shock you with that piece of information. There's a meme called ridiculously photogenic. I don't know if you guys have ever heard it before. It started with this image that popped up about 5 years ago. It was an image of a bunch of people running a charity event, and one of the guys was looking for his friend in the picture, and she was that number 225. But he looked at the guy in the back, and he said, "Who is this guy?" Look at the next picture. This is a guy named Zeddy Little. Look at him. That's him running a marathon. That's how he looks, right? You can just see like beauty coming off of a ridiculously photogenic marathon guy, right? And this meme just caught on, and people started picking up ridiculously photogenic people in different parts of their lives. And there was a guy named Cam McDaniel who used to play for Notre Dame. He was a running back, and in the middle of like a huge scrum, he was tackled, and his helmet came flying off, and he like jumped over a pile and landed for a few more downs. And here's a picture of him in the middle of that moment. That's him in the middle of a football game. That's Cam McDaniel. Can you imagine seeing that every day when you got up? I cannot. Right? And then there's all these other kind of pictures that come up too, right? This really caught on. This is my favorite one. This is a woman named Rachel. This is the day she got a lung transplant. That's the picture of her in the hospital after a 12-hour lung transplant surgery. If you Google ridiculously photogenic lung transplant patient, you find her picture. This is actually my all-time favorite one. This is the one I thought was coming up. This is ridiculously photogenic metalhead. He's at a heavy metal concert. He's just looking glorious, right? And then this one, just for an extra bonus one, throw this one in here. That's a ridiculously photogenic horse. I just love that so much. I don't know why. Ridiculously photogenic horse. So ridiculously photogenic is a meme that I love. You can take that down. I need to be honest. I need to be honest with a really significant percentage of you in this room. A lot of you in this room, let's just be honest, a lot of you are ridiculously photogenic horses, right? A lot of y'all are pretty people. That is a problem that we have here at First Methodist. It's not your problem, you were born that way, all right? We have a lot of very pretty people in this community and in this room, right? And you are gonna have to learn something that the normals had to learn a long time ago, right? And that is that at some point, things are going to change, right? At some point, things are going to change, right? There's a saying in sports, father time is undefeated, right? There's a saying in sports, father time is undefeated. There's something that each and every one of us is going to have to struggle with the reality of just how it is that we're perceived, how it is that we're viewed in the world. And I got to be honest with you guys, I'm as susceptible to this as anybody else in this room, right? You know why I have a beard? Not because I think it looks good. It's like a chin prosthesis for me. I have no chin. I'm like lips on a neck. This is all just a sham, right? I struggle with it as much as anybody else, right? Each and every one of us at some point, right? At some point needs to put the lies of the false god of sex appeal behind us, right? It is coming for each and every one of us. Every single person in this room at some point ends up looking like me, men and women, right? We just need to accept it. And we need to understand that one of the things that we're so crazy about anyway, right? This idea of sex appeal is not something that has anything to do with you. It has something to do with everybody else, right? The idea of beauty is just culturally conditioned, right? Over time, we've all seen things that show, like, 200 years ago, nothing was more attractive than being over 250 pounds, right? I was looking at different communities' understandings of beauty, and apparently in the 1800s, in the Pakistan, kind of ancient Near East or ancient Middle Eastern area, nothing was more attractive on a woman than a nice full mustache, right? It's culturally conditioned. There's one of my favorite things to kind of point out. Her name Esther Honig is a woman. She's a photojournalist. She took that picture of herself in the center, and then she sent it to magazine Photoshop artists around the world and asked them, make me beautiful, right, according to your community, right? What makes me beautiful in Pakistan, right? And they change her skin color, they change her hair color, they change her eyebrows, they change her lips. What makes me beautiful in Greece, and they change her in a totally different way. In Germany, and they change her a totally different way. In Argentina, a totally different way. There's over 30 of these that she put together, right? Y'all, stop killing yourselves on hoping that the intersection of who you are and what the rest of the world is looking for in this place and at this moment lands exactly where you think it should, right? When you worship, when you find yourself worshiping the false god of sex appeal, what you're doing, right, is imagining how others will think and treat you differently if you were just to change. That is an act of worship to the false god of sex appeal, right? If I just changed my appearance, if I just changed my haircut, if I just changed my body fat composition, then others would treat me differently, think about me differently, care about me differently, and I would be worthy of the love and the attention and the affection that I so hope for. So, what's the truth then? If this is the false promise, if this is the lie, what's the truth? Our truth comes from 2 Corinthians 4, the scripture selection, We used 2 Corinthians last week too, right? The gospel writer, or the letter writer Paul is writing to a community of people who have been really kind of hoodwinked, right? And by these other leaders, by these other teachers who have come in. And he's trying, one of the things they're really struggling with is the reality, even though we're following Jesus, right? Even though the resurrected one is returning, we're still experiencing pain, we're still experiencing illness, we're still experiencing death, right? How is it that all these promises are still true, right? If we're still experiencing all this hardship, right? If we're experiencing all these aging, if we're experiencing the aches and pains, if our bodies are literally falling apart, right? How is it that all these promises are still true? So he picks up by saying this. So we aren't depressed, he says. This is writing to what he was saying previously. Even if our bodies are breaking down on the outside, the person that we are on the inside is being renewed every day. Our temporary minor problems are producing an eternal stockpile of glory for us that is beyond all comparison. We don't focus on the things that can be seen, but on the things that can't be seen. The things that can be seen don't last, but the things that can't be seen are eternal. God speaks to us through the reading of Scripture. I've done an exercise before where I've asked teenagers, if you could change anything about yourself, if you could change anything about yourself, what would you change? Just think about it in your head. Then I ask them, how many of you thought something about your appearance? Right? How many of you? And it's usually almost every single one. Right? It's usually almost every single one. The people of Christ, the people of God, the people who live with God at the center, right? The God made known to us through Jesus Christ. These people, right? Us. Focus our time and our energy and our understanding of that which is eternal. Y'all, Father Time is undefeated. Father Time is undefeated, right? And each and every one of us in this place needs to work into our understanding of who we are and who each other are, and what our own worthiness for love and attention and affection is, and it all needs to be rooted in who God proclaims you to be. Because you know who God says you are? God says, you are how I made you. God says, you are who I want you to be. God says, you look the way I want you to look. And God says, each and every one of you is worthy of love, and is worthy of attention, and is worthy of affection, and is worthy of intimacy. And it has nothing to do with how you look, and everything to do with who you are. So, if you walked into this place, right, and this is something that was on your mind, and this is something that was running your understanding of who you are, or if the one thing that you could change about yourself was all going to be an act of worship to the false god of sex appeal, let me counter with the truth. And that is, you are made for eternity. You are made for eternity. In this place, you look how God wishes you to look, right? But you are made for forever. So spend your time and your energy and your understanding of who you are and who others are focused on that. Please pray with me. Great and loving God, each and every one of us in this place, each and every one of us, no matter how we look, no matter how we feel inside our own skins, no matter how we believe we are perceived by other people, has acted out of worship to the false god of sex appeal. We've all believed, oh God, that if we could change something, if we could be different, that others would value us differently, that others would pay attention to us differently, that others would show affection to us differently. And each and every one of us, oh God, has believed at some point that we had to earn that through how we looked. Remind us, oh God, that you made us how you would have us be, that our faces are the faces that you designed for us, that our bodies are the bodies that you made for us, that our lives are the lives that you breathed your breath into. And these lives, oh God, you say are made for joy, and are made for purpose, and are made for freedom, and are made for assurance. And so, God, let the center of our worship, the foundation of our lives, and the very source of our being be you now and every day of our lives. And remake us, O God, today and tomorrow and every day to come in the image of your Son, Jesus the Christ. as together we pray the words that he taught us to pray, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. And give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.